Now to the latest on the push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas has announced that it has agreed to a ceasefire proposal, but Israel says there is no deal yet as it ramps up attacks on Rafah. We'll get the reaction from the White House, but first, Marcus Moore is on the ground for us there in Israel. Good morning to you, Marcus.
Robin, good morning. We are at Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, where memorials pay homage to those being held captive in the midst of this war. And while the IDF says their latest operation in Rafah overnight is limited in scale, the relatives of some of those held hostage fear what the outcome could mean for their loved ones. Overnight, Israel launched a ground operation in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The IDF saying it killed 20 members of Hamas and found 3 operational tunnel shafts. And they have taken control of the critical Rafah crossing. This morning, videos show Israeli flags now flying on the Palestinian side of the border. This as Hamas says they are willing to accept a new ceasefire proposal. The deal, a different agreement than one proposed by Israel, includes a permanent end of military operations and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from areas adjacent to the border inside Gaza. Israel now reviewing the plan, but has yet to agree to these terms. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Hamas's counteroffer is, quote, far from Israel's core demands, which included a 6-week ceasefire and releasing some Palestinian prisoners for up to 33 hostages. Despite the uncertainty, crowds in Gaza celebrating Hamas's announcement. While in Tel Aviv today, relatives of hostages demonstrated in front of the U.S. consulate, demanding the Israeli government accept the deal. Do you worry that this operation in Rafah will affect the efforts to release the hostages?
Yes, I'm afraid that they will all be dead.
The family of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who's been held hostage by Hamas since October 7th, speaking with us this morning.
It's been 214 days. We need to be reunited with our loved ones. We're not going to solve everything in the Middle East right now today. Let's get our loved ones out. Let's bring a calm to the region.
It is apparent this morning that both Israel and Hamas are open to negotiating a prisoner exchange, but the exact details, how many people and when, is where the gaps have been. Now, delegations from all sides will head back to Cairo to continue talking soon. But George, Egyptian authorities are warning that the current operation in Rafah, they say, threatens the efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement.
That is a complication. Okay, Marcus, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary, the White House in the thick of these negotiations.
They certainly are, George. Look, the Biden administration is heavily invested in these talks, which they see as the best way to ease the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza and also diffuse this crisis abroad, but also here at home as the president continues to face growing political pressure and these protests. Now, the talks for now continue. The White House clearly hopes that a deal here is still possible, but the back and forth of the last 24 hours certainly just goes to show how volatile and fluid this situation still is, and all of this coming as the U.S. continues to urgently warn Israel not to invade Rafah. The president reiterating that message directly in his 30-minute phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday. The White House deeply concerned that an operation like this would only exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. But so far, Netanyahu doesn't seem to be heeding Biden and the U.S.'s warning. So the big question then, what comes next? How would this administration respond? I have asked the White House if they would limit or condition aid to Israel. Their response, George, let's see what happens.
Mary Bruce, thanks.